Cause I can read between the lines, I ain't blind. We unwind what they're really saying, genetically modify what you're tasting. Loan you that college promise, so now you live up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Programmed to crave the basics, keep the beta in stasis. Pay the state, kid, you're in debt for being born. Messengers are more than just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed, disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of own nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer, cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Welcome to your Sunday night episode of Rogue Ways. I feel like I haven't done a show forever, but I guess that's just because I did it a day early last week, and that's all there is to it. Between Thursday and Sunday, I was my longest break between shows, and I did a show with Alan on Wednesday, which was super awesome and fun. If you haven't seen it yet, you should go check it out. We did a review of alchemy and alchemical ideas throughout all religions, all, forms of spirituality, all sort of ethnic heritages have these alchemical aspects to them, and it's fascinating to learn about that and to think about that. And Alan Sisko is such an amazing human being. He's very enlightening and wise and just full of knowledge, and so that was a really fun episode. But we did do it a day early, and so it has been a while, so I just feel like it's been a long time. So it's nice to be here, and it's nice to see you guys. What's up, Sue Finelli? Nice to see you as always. We've got a little too spicy in the house. What's up? It is awesome to see you guys. There's a bunch of people out there who haven't said hi yet. I always encourage you guys to hop over to YouTube, where most people are, and say hi. But however, if you're on DLive, if you're on Facebook, wherever you're at, I can see your comments now, and so I love it. So just say what's up and interact with us, and that is the fun way to do it. I want to show off some things that I have been doing. If you know me, you know that I got into making orgone pendants. Let me show you a few of them here. Chad ain't said hi yet. What's up, Chad? And we've got Z Sky, who is new. Welcome. It's good to have you. So I've been selling these little pendants that are orgone energy accumulators, and I made them myself. They're all just one-of-a-kind little pieces. You hang them from wherever you want. You can hang them from yourself. You can make earrings out of them. You can hang them from your car, whatever you like to do with them. And so, I've been selling these. I just sell them for like 10, 15, 20, depending on if I'm including shipping or not. Shipping is usually included. If you go on my site, the price there includes shipping in the United States. So they're like usually 15 in that case. So I have a couple of those, but I also have started playing around with making orgonite plaques. And so this is the first one I've sold. These are, and I haven't yet attached the back thing that's going to hang it on the wall, so I need to do that still. But these are fresh pressed flowers that I've pressed myself. They're all, real flowers. So any of the flowers you see in here are real. There's quartz crystal all the way around. There is the handmade paper that I use as the sort of background to make it pop, and then it's got some metal sheeting on the back of various kinds. And so it's a 4-layer orgone accumulator, and I took a picture of not this one but a different one, and the camera couldn't even I'm serious, I don't know if that's a normal thing for orgone, but the camera was like fucking up. It was like having strips of just color through it. And my camera, my phone is in perfect working order, and it works in every other situation, but it just wasn't capturing these. And I finally got it, but I was like, is that how fucking powerful these things are? I don't know. I know that my heart led me to make these, and they're beautiful either way, so that they're just fun art if you like that, but they're also really powerful energy for you to have around. And my idea is I would hang them on the wall, or I would hang them in my garden, and just have them around my property. And so they're just fun ways. So that's the one that I've sold so far. And the rest I'm going to show you are still for sale as of now. They're not listed on my site. You just, right now, if you want these, you have to know me and basically private message me on one of the many platforms in order to get them. This is the next one that, this is my favorite actually, because I loved the way this pressed flower turned out. It's this bright orange. It looks kind of washed out on the screen, so I guess you can't really see like how beautiful this color is. Maybe if I twist it a little, you kind of start to see it. Anyway, this one's super awesome. It has this purple handmade paper in the background, and it got a little kind of see-through, and so you get a little bit of the metal sheeting shining through. So this one just turned out really cool. Also has the crystals. All of these have fresh pressed flower, homemade paper, the metal sheeting, and the crystal, the various types of quartz crystal. They're quartz mixes that I use in my orgone. And so this one is still for sale. This one would be $40 because it's a little bit larger. The smaller ones, I'm going to do 30. So this one would be 30. This is of the same sort of style as many of the pendants I made, that same handmade paper that's sort of the black and gray swirlies, which I really liked. And it looks nice with these yellow lily petals and the purple petals and some leaves in here. And of course the crystals. So there's that one. I really like how that one turned out as well. This one is cool as well. The pressed flower itself like kind of got like a purple gray, which I thought was super neat. It like lost some of its color, but it actually turned a really neat color. So this is another full flower round there. It reminds me of the sun. When I was making it, I was actually kind of trying to do like some horoscope, related ones. And so this one was going to be my sun, and the rest of them turned out really horribly. I'm not selling them. I'm giving them away for free to people who want them. But so this one is the only one that made it. And this is the sun one. This is actually the one that made the camera go funky. So this is a $40 one as well. It's got the crystals in it too. Sometimes it's harder to see the crystals unless you're holding them up close because they are quartz and they're often a little see-through. And so you can kind of see some of them if I twist it, but they are in there. This one is a full lily that turned out really nicely. And the leaves, this one's a little bit bigger too. So this would be a $40 one. And I just have two more to show you guys. This one is my heart-shaped one. It's nice. It's got 3 different blooms in it. They're all like a purple flower with a yellow. You see how I don't even know what the flower names are? I'm like, it's a purple flower. That's what it's called. But I like the way this one turned out too with the 3 different blooms in the heart. It's neat. And the last one is this smaller one. And this one I might even do for $25, but this is a cute little leaves with their the purple flower on top of them. I'll maybe try to learn the names of the flowers so I can actually like tell you guys what they are, but I just get flowers from my boyfriend who's awesome, and then I press them all and make art out of them. So that's what I have so far. I'm gonna keep making these because they're really fun. And I'm gonna get even more crystals to put in and all kinds of fun stuff to do. So I'll keep doing that. I'm gonna keep doing pendants too. So if you're into the earrings or the necklaces, then you'll also have those available. But I just do them as I have time. And I try to do, more and more cool designs as I go. But like I said, I tried to do some cool designs and they turned out like really bad. So I'm not even going to show you guys those ones because they're embarrassing. But I also did some cool sea glass ones that I'm not going to show because they're for my mom's birthday. It's her sea glass she got from like the Mediterranean Ocean and just beaches that we've lived by and stuff. So it's pretty sentimental and cool. But anyway, those are all available for you. Again, if you want to message me now, I will save one for you. You can PayPal me the money. I'll give it to you. I'll send it out. I'm going to send things out tomorrow, Monday. But then by tomorrow, I hope to have these also up on the site for people who don't know me personally and would like to buy some. And if you don't get one of these, there will be more. So, they tend to go kind of quickly, but you'll get one if you want one. Don't worry. I'll keep making them. What's up, Electric Noospheres in the house? We've got... How did I miss Electric Noosphere until I went back? Well, I got you now. We got Gray Klein. No, Gray Klein. My bad. Gray Klein. What's up, Gray? Got Jeff Green. Whoop, whoop. Got DS. What's up? Nice to see you. And Scott Cook. Thank you. You're beautiful stuff. The sun one. Yeah, I really liked the sun one. I mean, there's 2 that could kind of be like the sun, right? We have those big round blooms. But that one that like messed the camera up, I'm like, wow, this one feels intense. I should have kept the messed up one so I could show you guys. Let me really quickly check my trash and see if I can. I'm a notorious deleter of things and emptier of trashes, so yeah, I already emptied it. Oh well. Anyway, I also want to tell you guys of who we have coming up on the show. We have some really exciting things coming up on Rogue Ways, and so we've got I can't remember her whole name, so I'm looking really quick because on my calendar it just says her first name. She's from the UN. She works with the UN to try and stop 5G. Her name is Claire. Oh, man. I don't have her full name on here. It's just Claire, stop 5G. I'm a horrible person. I'll tell you guys more, but she's coming up this week. She's super cool. So she works, like I said, with the UN trying to stop 5G from rolling out, trying to educate the dangers of 5G. And so she's someone who's out there actually, working on all of our behalves to try and educate and stop this horror from happening to us and around us. So super cool lady. I'm very excited to talk to her, and that should be this coming Thursday. Today I'm going to talk to you about Brave New World, the book by Aldous Huxley, and then Tuesday I want to talk to you about 1984, the book by George Orwell, and I want to compare those two themes. So if you've already read it, it's a little refresher. It's kind of interesting little literary discussion, and if you haven't read it, then it's definitely a spoiler. So, if you want to read it still and don't want it to be spoiled, then don't watch this episode. But and if you haven't read it and you don't plan on reading it, this is perfect for you because we know people bring up Brave New World all the time, and so it's nice to just have a little background on that. But so Brave New World today, 1984 Tuesday, Claire stopping 5G on Thursday, and then coming up this coming Monday, I don't know how it works, so I'm supposed to be on Sam Tripoli's show on Tinfoil Hat. I'm very excited about that. I don't know when the episode actually comes out. We're recording Monday, and I don't think he does live, so it might be, later that week, or I don't know. I don't know how he does it. And then Athen Chimenti, I'm probably not saying that right. Athen Chimenti. I don't remember which way it is, but he's an astrologer. He's a sidereal astrologer, and he is super in-depth and very intelligent, very awesome soul. So he's going to be here on the 4th, next Tuesday. Then we have Sam Tripoli of Tinfoil Hat coming on this show with his whole crew, and Phoenix Aurelius coming on with his IDF analysis. If you've been here for those live IDF sessions, they've been super cool. We're doing a whole episode that's just questions. We often do Phoenix and I will do a talk, and at the end we'll do 20, 30 minutes of IDF. People always want more. They're like, ask this question. So we're going to do a whole entire episode just of IDF analysis questions. And if you have a question you want us to ask, first of all, we may have already asked it, and so we were not going to ask it again. He may have already answered it in another session, so we may not do it live. He might just tell us the answers that he got before. But if neither of those things are true, and this is a question that we want, we're going to add it, and we're just going to have a list that we compile, and we're going to pull things off and kind of do what we can during this episode. So if you have a question you want to add, email me. And email me at CoreySharman@gmail.com. That's QUORRI. Sharman, SCHARMYN @gmail.com. If you forget how to spell that, you can go to rogueways.org, and the name of the site is actually CoreySharman.com. So you can find that spelling there, and also that email is linked to from the site, so you can find that there and contact me. And there's also a contact form on the site, and you can email it through there too. Any of those ways works. Just if you want to get a question submitted, do that. If you comment on this video when it's not live, I might also be able to grab it from there and paste it. So just get your questions in. We've already got a bunch from previous shows that are left over. So anyway, that's what's coming up on Rogue. And say what's up to the people in the chat again. I think I said hi to Gnosis Gnome, but if not, what's up, Gnosis Gnome? And Burning Marl's in the house. What's up? Oh, good. Some people have never read Brave New World. It's honestly a very boringly written book. like Aldous Huxley is not a good writer, in my professional opinion. And if people don't know, I'm an English teacher. I'm an English major. Yes, I know. English majors are pointless. But I knew I was going to teach English, so I got my bachelor's in English and social studies, and then I got my master's in teaching, and so I teach English and social studies, or I have traditionally done that, and then I quit because it's one of the most stressful jobs you can have. What's up, Steve Mercer? I've missed you. You're back. It's good to see you. And so, yeah, I don't teach anymore, but I do. People always tell me I teach here. I teach the world. But I like to remind people of my site. I know I mentioned it already, but go check it out, rogueways.org or corysharman.com. Same site, 2 names, all kinds of stuff that's published here, poetry, articles, etc. I like the link cloud down here, the sort of noosphere is what I call it. You can also subscribe via email and get updated when I post new stuff, which is, a good amount of time. I've had more and more people coming for tarot readings and guidance sessions lately, which has been just awesome. I have so much gratitude to be able to do these things for people, and it's just really profoundly helpful for a lot of people. So I always urge people, if you've been like on the fence and you've been thinking like, oh, I really have these questions, I'm not really sure if this is the right way to go about it. There's no wrong sort of problem, issue, or question to bring to a card reading session or to a guidance session. There really isn't. And for some reason, the people who do guidance sessions don't tend to leave reviews, but the things that they tell me are that they're, that I made it really easy for them, that I'm like very non-judgmental, I'm really easy to talk to, and that I know exactly how to sort of help and address their problems. And I will make you a guarantee that if you do want to try a guidance session, but you're like, I don't really get this, like, what is it? What's it like? And you gift me through PayPal or buy it through the shop here, and you're just like, this was bullshit and I hated it, I will happily give your money back. That's not a problem for me. So try it out if you want to. And again, like I said, there's no problem, question, or issue that's like not appropriate for this session, unless you're just not being honest and whatever. But if you're genuinely coming and seeking, it's going to be good for you. So check that out. Also in the shop, besides classes, tarot, and guidance sessions, you can get irreverent merch, Rogue Ways gear, and like I said, those Organite pendants that are still for sale, and soon the plaques that haven't been sold by the time I get around to posting them. So that's the site. Check it out. Of course, on subscribestar.com, this is my favorite way to be supported by y'all. I really appreciate my roguesters out there who are supporting through Subscribestar. Even at the dollar level, I really appreciate that. I know not everyone can swing a lot, but it helps to have the foundation set by people who can manage to jump from YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're listening to this on your podcast and just commit to that at least a dollar level or higher. I appreciate my $7, my $22 people, and of course my $55 person. I've had one person this whole time and he loves it. He gets his discounted tarot reading every month, and that's awesome for him. So and I love it. This is the first time I have done a tarot reading for the same person over and over again every month. And I tell you, it's amazing. Like, the depth that we get to just gets deeper and deeper all the time. It's pretty cool. I really like this experience. So if you are interested in having access to the unique content on Subscribestar, which includes my audiobook and all kinds of other stuff, and maybe getting discounts on readings, then that is where you want to go. So let's check it out. Let's talk about Brave New World. Yes, I'm giving you guys a PowerPoint. Oh, I hate this. Hold on. Do I have to do it that way? No. Oh, man, it's doing this thing. It makes, because I have 2 screens, and it wants me to, like, use the other screen for my... Oh, what if I do? I don't want to exchange it. I don't want to restart it. I don't want to see the notes. I don't want to see the slides. What I really want to do is not see this at all. You guys, why didn't I figure this out ahead of time? Because this happened to me last time, and I can't see the chat if I do it like this. Whatever. I'm just going to have to not see the chat for a minute. Like, maybe there's a way to have it just on one screen. Every other time in my classroom, I would have 2 screens, and it would let me not have the presenter view. What if, can I just see this big? No, it won't let me. Whatever. Okay. We're just doing this, guys. What if I do? No, because if I do escape, it just goes back. Oh. What I'll do is I'll see your guys' chat on YouTube. So if you're not on YouTube for this show alone, I won't see your chat. Sorry. It's just because of PowerPoint. So if you're not on YouTube. Okay. it's kind of like PowerPoint. It's like the Open Office, or not even the Open Office. What is it? LibreOffice version of PowerPoint. So yeah. I don't know what John Jacob's talking about, but he's talking about it, and I support that. Chad. I understand being afraid of tarot. Yeah, tarot can be done very, very poorly, especially if it's not taken seriously. It can invite a lot of issues or entities, and I assure you that my method of doing tarot is very, very safe, but I also understand, if you in general stay away from tarot, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Everyone should do what feels good to them. So first, I like to point out this cover. This is one of the covers for Brave New World, and of course, it's pretty good. This dude has no head. He doesn't think, he doesn't feel, he has no head, he has no personal identity or privacy, and he's also made partly of machine. So it's a really nice metaphor for the content of the book. Brave New World, written by Aldous Huxley, who's a weird dude. He's just a weird guy. He lived a while ago. He actually died in 1963, and he was born before the 20th century even began. So, getting out of our reach here a bit. You can tell by his glasses that he was super dorky. But anyway, notable members of his family, aka, people who are in the ruling class, the elite class, and who are up there. He's towards the top of the pyramid, right? And this is why a lot of people believe that Brave New World is sort of, ruling class, elite class guidebook for how to run society in a way that will leave no room for escape and perfect control. And that's very likely true. Who knows? I also think it's completely possible that he just, being around these people who are this influential, being around eugenicists, being around people who talk about things like influencing society, and especially given the things that were going on in the world at this time, that he just, had this idea. I think both are equally as plausible, and I get the black pill that everything everywhere is always part of the plot, and very, very possible. I don't discount that it also is just a kid who's super elitist up there just writing, doing his best to write, even though he sucks real bad at it. Vision problems, obviously. His glasses are super thick. Oxford, so again, another hint that he's up there. He's part of the plan, part of the rollout of the plan. And of course, Brave New World, New World Order. It's a little much to think that's totally coincidence. He did live in the U.S. for a while, and he ended his life there. And of course, his novels are often criticized for the same reason. I just say it in layman's term, he sucks as a writer. But if you really want to get down to it, it is that he's too intellectual. He doesn't have a lot of creativity. The way he writes is not very poetic or metaphorical. You can tell he's trying, but he does it in this very formulaic way. He's like, I need to put a metaphor in this chapter, and you could just tell how much he belabored it. It's very obvious. It's very contrived. So his writing is just very dry and kind of boring, except that the ideas are cool, and of course the effect they've had on our society, possibly in a guiding way. And so that's why his books are interesting, but they are not well written in the sense that they're just not creative and engaging. But the things that come up in Brave New World, the idea that you can have this utopia, that if you, create things very, very intentionally and very perfectly, that you're going to have this utopic sort of a world go on, and that's what we want, that we want to move towards utopia. Of course, in every utopic novel or movie that we've ever seen, it's actually a dystopia, and this one is too. Of course, we have the question, did Aldous Huxley mean for it to be a dystopia, or does he actually think this is utopia, and he's pointing out how great it is? You can go either way. There seems to be evidence of his own writing, his own ideas outside of the book that go both ways, so it's up in the air. We can have a whole episode just on that. There's definitely a very rigid caste system in Brave New World. Everybody is divided very specifically, much more so even than our world, where we think it's pretty obvious, right? Who's the probably hidden elite ruling class, then the known elite ruling class, and then the sort of peons of them that's still way above us, but doing their bidding. And then there's sort of the maybe celebrities and just rich people and the uber wealthy, maybe we could say. And then there's like the normal upper middle class, and then there's middle class, and there's lower, blah, blah, blah. We think it's very strict, but when you look at it, it's like kind of hard to decide sometimes. Like, some people have tried to say that I'm middle class in my life. I don't feel like I've ever even been close to middle class, but I guess, maybe living on a teacher's salary got me closer. I don't know. It just depends on how you define things. But in this world, Brave New World, super distinct. You're this class, you know it. Everybody knows it. They have, Pavlov was a big influence at this time, that Aldous Huxley is sort of coming, into himself and thinking about the world. And so there's a lot of Pavlovian conditioning ideas that went into the creation of Brave New World. Of course, he's that psychologist that came up with the idea of classical conditioning, and we're all very familiar with it. The dogs that he trained, there's a bell that rings every time he gives them food, and eventually he takes the food away, but the bell rings and they still salivate. So the idea is that you can train any being to have certain responses if you just do it often enough. And so that is something that really influenced him too. This dog is a Norwegian elkhound, and they're so cute. My sister has one, but this used to link to a video, and it doesn't now. If you can't tell, I've used this PowerPoint in teaching. I just modified it because I wanted to share things and do it easily. So sorry this slide sucks already, but some other things that were important as Aldous Huxley is sort of coming up in the world and thinking about society and life is Freud. Freud is a really big deal. We hear about Freud a lot in a lot of the various novels and movies, and the programming and conditioning that we've got through our culture. A lot of it has deep connections to Freud. A lot of the MK Ultra stuff, a lot of the mind control stuff comes from Freud. A lot of people kind of look at Freud as sort of the bastard who like broke the brain open and offered it to the psychopaths and the parasites to sort of use it against us, use our own psychology against us. And it's definitely a good point. Like, whether he did that on purpose or not, it seems pretty true. I don't think he's cracked everything, to be quite honest, and I think that's a great, great thing for us, because I think we have more hidden up our sleeves than we even know. But it was a big influence at the time, and it still is. And so the idea of psychology being something that's almost like programmable, hackable, knowable, this sort of closer to like a hard science view of it, this was what Sigmund Freud gave us. But again, even now, I think it's a lot softer than they think. Of course, he's a psychiatrist, psychoanalyst. He does think that most of our, whether you think of it as mental health or mental illness or, our soul or whatever, like how we act and how we are in society comes from our training, our conditioning, not, this accident of birth or this like individuality that you just have as a part of you. And I think that's another aspect of what I was kind of trying to hint at where we fall short, is I don't think it's all just black or white, like a programmable computer. I think there's more to it than that. And that, that's why we haven't really cracked it. There's also this idea of better living through chemistry. That's a big part of the culture at this time. And so soma is a drug in the book. And the idea is that we can use these chemicals to alter our mind and our health and our mental well-being, and in a very controlled way. And we know what the outcome's going to be. If we give this dose of this drug, we're going to have this sort of outcome. And of course, you and I know that that's bullshit. You and I know that there's a lot of drugs you can take and you can have all kinds of different outcomes from it. And that a lot of it often has more to do with belief and our state of mind and our trust in the authority figure who's giving us this or suggesting it to us, and whether or not it's going to work and how it does work. And so we know it's not just chemistry, right? But at this time when he's writing this, it seems to them like it's just chemistry. We give them this and that's the outcome. And that's, unless they're abnormal or something went wrong or whatever, which we'll try to control for and get rid of ahead of time, this is going to work like this. And so a lot of the book is based on this idea that soma, this fake drug in the book, will keep people in this constant state of perpetual happiness. And wouldn't that be kind of nice? This is part of the allure of this world that he creates, is you're like, well, why wouldn't we want to just be happy and just be on these drugs all the time? I'm going to check in with the chat real quick. Eccentric is in the house, and Eccentric says tarot cards are the roadmap into archetypes and achieving gnosis. The major arcana definitely is literally an archetypal roadmap. Yes. And each reading has a completely different meaning for each person in the situation, depending on what's going down in their life. Yes, Scott, we are going to talk about the way out of this beast Babylonian system that he is creating here. And he does. He gives it away. He gives it away. They always do. They always give you the way out. Oops, I hope I didn't just accidentally block someone. Woo! I don't think I did. What's up, Biggie Smollett? Got that nice wrench symbol next to your name. I never look at the YouTube chat, so I forget. He's my muscle in the house. Utopia is not possible. Well, it depends on your definition of utopia. If utopia is like actual freedom and no parasites, even if there's death and destruction and chaos, like I'd call it utopia. It'd be cool. Just being free of the parasites, that'd be utopia for me. But I totally, stop it. I'm not trying to block anyone. Yes. And we're going to talk about that too. Elba Joe Loco. Mankind has definitely we've been trained. We've all been conditioned. These things that they're talking about, we'll see that we have every aspect of it in our lives, unfortunately. And we'll talk about the same when we talk about 1984 on Tuesday. Yeah, digital apparition for some reason doesn't want to be my my muscle. Doesn't want that responsibility. Lloyd Tucker Carlson is back. Whoop whoop. And Audra Christine is here. Soma is not a real drug. Soma, there's a Soma that's like a it's like a topical massage. It's got like arnica and stuff in it. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's the only Soma I've ever come across in real life. What's up, no thing? Nice to see you. So they also have orgies a lot in Brave New World. Sex is a really big part of the book. It's kind of underplayed in the book, however, because he writes in that very scientific, staid sort of tone. And so there's a lot of sex going on all the time, but it's really not... It's not like we have sex portrayed in our, media where it's just like this very like intense, like visceral, very like glamorized sort of thing. If you're watching the new Brave New World TV show, which is not what we're talking about tonight, then they've merged his sort of idea with our current state of being, which is really very different from the book. But again, in the book, it's not even... It's just like, yep, there's sex all over at the end. Like, there's not a lot of focus on it, but it is a big part of their society. In fact, Solidarity Service is when they go and it's like a religious ceremony for them, and they all take a really high dose of Soma, and they sort of like build the music and the lights to this almost like, when will the beat drop? Like this moment of just mind-shattering oneness where they all then just start like fucking like mad, and it's intense. It's a really weird book to teach to high school students, but I did it. So they do that to have a replacement for the spiritual experience, which the idea is that, this is all scientifically metered out like society. And so they need a religious experience, and this is going to be their religious experience. So it's called Solidarity Service. It's a very like hyper communist / capitalist state. It's very interesting, the economic world in Brave New World. It's a perfect mix of pure communism and pure capitalism, if you ask me. So it is actually a dystopian tale about this possible future world where human faith and scientific progress, freedom, dignity, individuality are all called into question. Do humans have dignity and privacy, or do they deserve it? Do they need it? What is freedom? Is scientific progress the key to unlocking human potential? And does individuality really matter? These are all kind of the central questions. Again, we can ask ourselves, did he mean for us to think for sure scientific progress controls, our ability to unleash human potential and have a perfect society? Freedom does not matter. Dignity is not what we think it is, and individuality is not important. He might have been meaning that, but of course, it's all in the eye of the beholder. Most people who read it think this is a horrible dystopian future. I just don't know if he did or not. It is in the 26th century, and it does take place in London. Mostly London is, the whole world is controlled by this system, and I don't know if that comes across in the new show that they have on Peacock or whatever, the streaming service. It is a good show. I've enjoyed it. It's just very different from the book. But in the book, it is the whole world is controlled by this system. There's nowhere that's not except these savage Indian reservations. And in the book, they really are Indian. They're Native American reservations. They're not, in the show, it's like poor white Trashville. But in the book, it was Native. It's like they had to still honor those treaties. And so they left them to have their sort of their lives still. And so there's a lot of Native spirituality and Native culture in these savage reservations. But I'm sure they couldn't do that because in this day and age in 2020, you'd get canceled if you portrayed Native Americans as savages, right? So they couldn't go along with the book in that, I'm sure. But that is the actual setting. And basically, it's really weird because their religion and their entire sort of world state, it's like Henry Ford is basically their god. So when they're having their orgies, they're like chanting Ford, Ford, Ford. And it's really weird. And then they also say, like, instead of like, oh my God, they say like, oh, Ford. So it's pretty, again, it's very contrived and like, it doesn't feel like natural, but he's just trying in his really horrible writing way to show that in this society, they are obsessed with like that sort of factory mass-produced mindset where, you want productivity and efficiency to be like the key and like cleanliness is next to godliness. And so this is his way of emphasizing that. It's, and they all have the T everywhere, and it's not the Christian cross. It's the T for the Model T Ford or whatever. It's just kind of like contrived. I'm just going to keep saying contrived because most of the book is very contrived. But it's the ideas that we care about, right? Let's see. Sex magic. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and we'll get to why he might actually have been intending for it to be magic. He seems like the least magical, least occult person in the world. But we'll talk about why there might actually be some hints of that. And the idea of sex magic is definitely highlighted more in the movie, in the TV version, the modern one that's just now out. The pain reliever drug called Soma. Huh, that's very weird. I did not know that. Sorry, I'm reading the chat again. If you can't tell, when I look down and start talking about random shit, that's what's happening. The generic name for this Soma pharmaceutical is Carisoprodol, Soma, and Vanadopt. Those bastards. And it's for a pain relief, which isn't, that's what the Soma is. Basically, it's just for like a mental and emotional pain relief. But how good is the TV show? I really have enjoyed it because they've found a way to stay pretty true to the intent of the book, but also make it a lot more engaging, honestly, and a lot more satisfying. There's more of sort of a traditional like plot and storyline and character development and characters that you actually kind of get more attached to. In the book, you're just kind of hate everyone. They are all stupid flat characters, but so they did a pretty good job in that. It is just very different, and so you just have to know that. And I almost liked having like read it and taught it so many times and then watching it, because it was really easy for me to see like why they were doing what they were doing. But there are some things that I'm like, it's a little beyond or more than he kind of implied in the book. But again, I get why they did it. There's definitely a technological aspect in the show that is not in the book. But if he knew what the world would be like now and wrote the book now, I think he might have actually included some of the things that they add. So it's interesting. It's worth watching for sure. Especially if you're doing it with open eyes and you're not, falling into the spells. But yeah, we all know Henry Ford did all this stuff. That's why he was focused on by Aldous Huxley. R. Ford, they call him. R. Ford and Savior. It's really funny. But he highlighted this sort of assembly line production, which they apply even to creating humans in the Brave New World. They're all cloned. And also this vertical structure, this focus on hierarchy, which is very efficient. It's very efficient. We've got the boss. We've got the managers who do the boss's bidding. We've got the executives below them, the rest below them. So this is sort of the fun way of looking at like how the shit gathers, right? And we all know it's like that. And so the caste system is we've got the alphas, then the betas, then the gammas, then the deltas, and then the epsilons. And in the book, they're all color-coded. And they do kind of stick to the color scheme in the TV show. So it's cool. They really do kind of, but not fully. So whatever. It's a nice nod to it. But in the book, the only way you have of telling if someone is a certain caste is a combination of their height and their looks. The tallest are alphas and the shortest are epsilons. The epsilons look kind of like monkeys as it's described, and the alphas, of course, look like sleek, beautiful, amazing people. And so you kind of just can tell based on that. Of course, in the TV show, the way you can tell who's in what system is very different. I won't give it away if you haven't seen it yet. And they achieve the differentiation and the creation of these different castes through a combination of cloning, oxygen deprivation during the development of the fetus and child, and so like intentionally they retard the being and its development, so the epsilons actually are literally retarded and the alphas are in no way, they're just allowed to flourish, and given everything they need. And then they also use a significant amount of conditioning, both how would you call it, natally? I mean, yeah, I guess they're still born technically, prenatally and postnatally. So you've got your different heights and your different colors of classes, and the alphas are buff and amazing, but everybody's happy in their class. The epsilons aren't down here crying that they're the street sweepers and the muck rakers or whatever, and the alphas aren't upset that they have so much responsibility for the world on their heads. They've all been conditioned so heavily that they're just perfectly happy where they're at. Every single caste is conditioned to love its job and its role and its place in society. And so that is part of why this has been determined by Aldous Huxley to be the perfect world, because you do have a caste, and that is often unfortunate in our world, but then you love your caste because you're conditioned to, and there's no other way to be except the way your conditioning aims you to be. And so it's interesting, right? It's an interesting way to try and solve the problems of the world. But they call this cloning process that they use the Bokanovsky process. And they clone, in especially the creation of the deltas and epsilons, all of their people are cloned, but they make more and more copies the lower you get on the totem pole. So there's, something like 72 exact clones for each fertilized ovum, for an epsilon, and then less and less for each others. Maybe it's 96. I don't know. I can't remember why we even know these numbers, because I think they actually do explain it in the book. That's another part of the book that gets boring, is he goes into like these details that you don't really care about. But this is their primary instrument of social stability, is creating these clones, depriving them of oxygen or not, and creating these castes of people who are perfectly happy where they're at through this cloning process. There's a lot of focus on it in the book. I think there's like a whole chapter just on like the cloning parts. And of course, part of their conditioning comes through this audio repetition they call hypnopedia. And this is, played to them through, again, prenatally. It's as soon as they're born, it's played through their pillow as they sleep all night, every night. And they call it in the book the greatest moralizing and socializing force of all time. It's hard to say really whether it's the cloning and the hypnopedia or what. And then they also do other types of conditioning, Pavlovian conditioning. So really, it's all of the above. But it's basically sleep teaching. This was also another thing that was sort of big at the time. Like people would listen to whatever overnight as they slept and feel like they would memorize it and know it. And we've kind of shown that you might like have it in your brain somewhere, but it's not like it's an active knowing, and you're not necessarily going to have active recall of this stuff. But at the time, they kind of, I think, had more faith in it, and maybe we don't have enough faith in it. Maybe it's being used, and we're meant to think it's not effective. Who knows, right? But this is part of how they condition their children and teach them their morals of how they should act, such as, everyone belongs to everyone. So if someone wants to have sex with you, it's your duty to have sex with them because everyone belongs to everyone. And what is one of their other phrases? Ending is better than mending. So don't fix your broken thing and don't sew your ripped shirt. You throw it away and you get new ones because we need the economy to keep going. And we can see that in our current society as well. So they teach them all of these sort of morals through these methods of conditioning. And of course, their class conditioning where they're like, alphas, it's so nice to be an alpha. You have so much responsibility and you're take care of everyone. And, oh, it's so great to be an epsilon. I keep everything clean. I love keeping things clean. So they teach them how to love their class. And each class also learns how to, like, not necessarily look down on, but, like, hate every other class. They would never want to be the other classes. Like, if you're a beta and you're looking at the alphas, you're not like, man, I wish I was an alpha. You're like, oh, those poor alphas have so much responsibility. I'm so glad I'm a beta. So even if you're an epsilon, you're thinking the same thing. Oh, I would hate to have that much responsibility. Or I'd hate to be a beta because da-da-da. So they do both positive conditioning for your own class and negative conditioning against the other classes. The director, the world director, is talking at one point. He says, the child's mind is these suggestions, and the sum of the suggestions is the child's mind. So our goal is really to have no thought other than the things that are trained into them from infancy onward. There's no other thought. And that's why one of the things you see through the novel that's very interesting is when any of the conditioned characters comes up against something that doesn't fit with what they've been trained, they have mental, how did I forget this word? Oh, you all know what I'm talking about. We talk about it all the time because people do it with conspiracies and everything. Cognitive dissonance. They have severe cognitive dissonance, and then they take a soma, and then now they don't have any more cognitive dissonance because they forget, and they're just happy now. Everybody's happy now. The Doors of Perception. It's probably not written better to be... people like it better. A lot. Audra Christine is asking, is it better? Doors of Perception, which is another book that Aldous Huxley wrote. I didn't read it, and I don't have any interest of reading any of his other books because he's such a poor writer. But I imagine he's just as poor of a writer in The Doors of Perception, but perhaps there's even more interesting content, and maybe he got better as a writer. Maybe he took some acid and then wrote that. I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah. Brave New World is hard to finish because it's so frickin' boring. My poor students. But... oh, did Aldous Huxley really teach or sell sleep teaching records? That's amazing. I don't know if that's true, but... oh, was he? Crow 777 was just talking about this? How weird. We're on the same wavelength. I mean, I think everybody's kind of thinking about it because this show just came out. So it's bringing it back to mind, but yeah. So what is the Brave New World? It's a society where all aspects of an individual's life are determined by the state, beginning with conception and conveyor belt reproduction. Literally every single aspect is determined by the state. You have zero control and zero choice, but you're happy with it because you've been conditioned to be, and you take soma anytime you have any level of cognitive dissonance or desire. The predestinators determine all of the roles, who's going to be what, how many people they're going to be made, who they're going to be cloned from. All of that is determined ahead of time. Children are raised by conditioning. There are no families. This is one of the things I cannot state enough. There's no mothers, there's no fathers, there's no brothers, there's no sisters, there's no cousins, there's no aunt, there's no family at all. There's just people who you know. There's just friends, and even then you're not supposed to become too attached to any one person. You're not supposed to become too attached to any one sexual partner. In fact, if you have sex, one of the characters in the book very early on is having almost monogamous relationships with one of the other characters, and that's because they have had sex more than 6 times in a row or something, and that's really not okay. Monogamy is a horrible word. Even saying it out loud makes them feel uncomfortable. And so trying to talk to somebody about hey, don't you think you're almost being monogamous with this person is a huge problem. Nobody wants to talk about it. So people are sort of pressured to not be monogamous. There's nothing like a family. There's nothing like a close relationship that anybody has. The closest relationships they have are sort of what I would call acquaintances. They're people you just kind of hang out with and work with and have shallow interactions with. So you don't fall in love, you don't marry, you don't have children. Obviously. Community is a huge focus in this book, and it's that was a weird animation. And it's focused on in a way that's very disturbing. It's not when I talk about community, I'm talking about just connecting with people who are around you and you're, either of a similar sort of ideology or similar sort of faith or a similar neighborhood, whatever it is, so that you can have interaction and you can help take care of each other. You can have communication, you can make sort of networks, and, these things I think are positive. But in this book, community is highlighted much more in the sort of communist, socialist sort of way, where community is just the epitome of all that is valuable in the world. You would give anything to sacrifice for the good of the whole. The individual is nothing. Community is everything. So it's the extreme version of community and the loss of self within that community. Identity is also focused on a lot in the sense that you don't have an identity truly, not in the sense that you like have a self where you're like, I'm Lindsay and I make flower art and, I believe these things and I'm this individual. It's identity much more in the identity politics sort of way, the shallowest way, where you're like, I'm a white woman of a certain age or whatever, like these types of identity. Your identity really matters in this world. You're an epsilon, you're an alpha plus. You work at this place, you're important or you're not. Like this level of identity is what you care about deeply in the Brave New World, but not the level of identity where it actually is like you as a personal entity. So it's a weird take on identity. Sorry, I don't know what's up with these animations. And then stability is a big focus. There's a lot. They do a good job in the TV show focusing on the stability aspect. Their society is very controlled. You have certain numbers of certain people doing certain jobs, and it all works in this very perfect, highly organized way. And so any sort of outside outliers or, the chi-squared random thing would be highly unsettling in this much of a controlled situation, right? It has to be highly controlled or not. And that is the Brave New World that they've created. So let's see, do we live in a brave new world? Exactly. Joseph Correa, what's up? And Joseph says, I'm convinced Brave New World isn't supposed to be a coherent story. It's a cookbook. Yeah, I think that's part of why it reads like a manual, like he's a scientific writer and he's a scientific mind and he's writing this book. And I guess it's kind of like narrative-ish. So you can technically read it and there is technically kind of a story, but it's a very unsatisfying one. And the characters are very not engageable. But it does definitely tell you exactly how you could probably create this world that people would choose to buy into long enough that it would be done, would be trapped. Scott Cook says, yes, the family is the most important thing in the development of a man or a woman and our society, right? This is one of our central units. It's one of the central ways where we remain in touch with ourselves and what we are as humans. Our spiritual identities often come from our families. Our connections to sort of our past and our roots come from our families often. And that is why this is one of the things that they're targeting for destruction intentionally, especially through communism. Communism specifically calls for the abolition of the family. Black Lives Matter specifically calls for the abolition of the family. I think it's insane that they just do it openly and no one cares, but they do. And this is why, because this is one of the things that's been on the chopping block, because they know this makes us strong. If you don't have a family and someone comes and they're trying to like railroad you into something and you have nothing to protect and nothing to sort of inform you of who you are or why it would matter anyway, you're kind of more likely to be like, okay, I guess I'll go along with this. If you have this family, it's like, I don't know about you, but the times in my life where I've been most ready to murder have been for my family. So I think there's a reason why they target the family. Good point, Scott. Yes. Chad says, when the witches are flying in the east, we're in reverse camera mode. I'll just point out, everyone thinks this is witches. I don't know what you guys can see right now because I can't see, but these are actually eagle. This is the Native American dance and people are dressed up as eagles. But yeah, I like that my camera switches when I'm doing one-on-one interviews. It's one way, and when I'm doing just me talking to you guys like this, it's a totally different direction. So they swap. Depends on what program I'm using. So are we living in a brave new world? Let's see. Is history worthless to us? Yeah, they're tearing down statues, right? History is worthless. No one even cares. Nancy Pelosi says, I don't care about statues. People are like, so what? It's just an old statue. We'll put up different art. Lots of people are forgetting our history. Probably intentionally, somewhat from laziness, but it does seem like we live in a world where history is rewritten, it's hidden, it's presented incorrectly, and what's left of it is ripped down. So yeah, definitely history is worthless. This is a big tenet of the book too. They focus that one of their phrases is actually, I'm not going to remember the phrase exactly, but it's basically, why think about the past, where the past is pointless. It's, you can't get it back. You can't change it. Who cares? So they just purposely don't think about the fast. They don't even remember things that happened like a month before. We're kind of like that now. People are like, remember murder hornets? You're like, oh yeah, shit, that was like a big deal for a minute. And then it was gone. Like, that's not really a good example of history, but you see what I'm saying. We're more and more conditioned to just sort of keep rolling forward and never look back. Does everyone... Oh, I'm sorry, this says explain. Again, a lot of this is from my use in teaching in the past, so... Explain yourself, people watching and listening right now. But does everyone belong to everyone else in our society? You could argue that we're moving that direction, right? There's a thing that I've been hearing in the past year, I'd say, where people say, like, if a sexual or transgendered person approaches you and, like, wants to date you and you say no, you're transphobic. And I'm like, huh? Like, I don't have a choice. I mean, if anyone approaches me to date me or kiss me or anything with me and I say no, that doesn't mean anything except I don't want to do that with you, period. And it doesn't matter why even. It's none of your fucking business. So it's weird. It's a very weird argument. It's a very psychotic argument. You know, it's completely devoid of compassion and it completely ignores the right of the individual to determine what they do with their body and themselves. So there's something about this that when I first read this book, I was like, that's not even a part of our world at all. And now I'm like, no, the more you like look at media, the more there seems to be promotion of just, you know, mindless random sex with whoever. Even Anthony Fauci was saying, like, you should wear a mask while you have sex, but it's okay to have sex with random strangers you meet on, like Grindr or whatever, you know? And I'm like, oh, wow. So it does seem like we're being more and more conditioned to not have boundaries and just have sex with anybody who comes along and anyone who wants to have sex with us, which is very much like the book. You have sex with anybody. If you don't have sex with someone who wants to have sex with you, you're rude. So it's interesting that we are now, I think, heavily seeing this start to come into play. Is throwing something away better than fixing it? Yeah. I mean, I like my whole life, a lot of my life, for some reason, I end up helping people, especially rich people, like clean out their houses and get rid of stuff. It's just the thing that happens to me. And so I just see all, like today, I literally brought like 4 bags and 5 huge boxes of stuff to the thrift store and it was all like brand new. It was like barely touched, barely used items. They just get rid of it. I don't know. It just blows my mind sometimes. But most of us have some aspect of this, you know, like somebody will have a phone for like 4 months and then the new version will come out and then they'll want that phone instead and they'll get rid of their other one. I don't know. We have a throwaway sort of culture. And I think we all understand that aspect, whether we're participating in it or not. I really, really do a good job. I have stuff that I've had for like 30 years. I try not to be a part of that culture, but it's there. Oh, do we really need a mother? Do we really need a family? Do we really need brothers and sisters? Do we really need our own kids? Should we just like adopt? Should we not even have kids? Like it does seem like, again, in our society, we move more and more towards not like valuing a family, not valuing creation of family. We have more and more people who choose to never have kids. We have more and more people who choose to do it alone with just one parent. And not judging, do whatever you want, you know, or do whatever you need. Maybe you had different plans, that's what happened, like that's fine. But it just seems like we're more and more moving towards those types of things. You know, abortion is cool, single parent family is cool, not having a family at all is cool. Especially when, you know, teaching, I see a lot, even in the short time I was a teacher over the, you know, 10 years, depending on how you count it, I saw a lot more of, you know, at the beginning and in my own generation, it's like, of course you love your family. Of course you honor your family. Of course you try to help your family when they need it. And you're like, that's one of your most important, you know, anchors in life. To, you know, recently, like as I left, it seems like a lot more kids are kind of like, fuck my parents. And like, why would I care? And I don't know. There's just a lot less reverence, I think. And again, I'm not... I myself, we all went through like a rebellious stage where we sort of rejected, I guess, some level of our family, or, you know, but that's like a normal process of developing yourself as an individual entity. And this is more of a like kind of disrespect and lack of reverence for just the family in general. I think I have noticed that myself. I wonder if you have too. And the elderly are worthless in this society. In the Brave New World, they're A certain age, you just go to die. They really don't focus on it at all. They don't explain it, but basically it's pretty obvious that you go and you get euthanized and you get burned and your ashes go up and the, gases go up into the atmosphere. They talk about how beautiful it is and it makes this red sunset that's so gorgeous. And then it falls back down to the earth and and this, part of the cycle. And there's some sort of almost spiritual aspect to it, but it's very much a very utilitarian, view of death, and the elderly are not worth anything. And so as soon as you're sort of out of efficiency and productivity range, you're killed off. Do we have that in our society? We are moving towards more and more acceptance of euthanasia. I'm not saying I'm for or against it. I'm saying it's interesting that we are developing that as an idea in our collective consciousness. It's legal in some places. And we also obviously just shoveled people into like nasty fucking hospitals and hospices. The hospices are actually usually pretty cool, but like the old folks' homes and the shit that goes on there, it drives me insane. There's so much abuse. There's so much elder abuse. And you just like ship them off and just let them go and let them die. It's like the saddest. Like these are our treasures. They should be our treasures. These people have the connection to the past. They have the wisdom, not all of them, but like in general, that's what our elders are for, is to keep us connected to that wisdom and that past and the way things used to be, and to keep our memory alive. And we just like shit on them. So it makes me really sad. And I think that is something we already have in our society, just like the Brave New World. And cleanliness is next to godliness. I don't see that as much. I actually am kind of like this. I keep things very neat, organized, and clean, but I don't see our society focusing on this. Maybe you disagree. Let me know what you think. I'd like to think, there's some things in the Brave New World we haven't gotten to yet, but this idea that you never put off tomorrow the fun you can have today. So we're used to hearing this as like never put off to tomorrow what you can get done today. But in the book, in Brave New World, it's never put off tomorrow the fun you can have today, because everyone should be social and engaged, and you should be out playing all these crazy games they have. Everybody's always like doing these like sports and various games and with their class. The alphas do this, the betas do that, etc. And you should never back out of that. You should always be engaged in that. So never put off the fun until tomorrow you can have today. I don't necessarily think we have that as a society. Maybe I'm totally wrong, because I do think we have sort of the party culture and the party mindset and the, party first and ask questions later, like party first and be responsible later. And so maybe we do really have that. I guess there's a little of both. At least it maybe seems like it's more and more acceptable to just have fun and not have responsibility. But you tell me, what do you think? These are the sort of central tenets of the Brave New World society, and I think that most of them can be reflected in our society and culture in some way. We even have our versions of Soma, clearly, right? We have our highly, highly available, highly pushed ways of getting high and detaching from society. I really wanted this collage to include alcohol, but I just found it at the last minute and it doesn't. But I'd say alcohol is first and foremost our society's Soma. It is very socially acceptable to the point where people's lives are just destroyed. People die all the time, every day, way more than COVID, way more than anything we care about. But we don't care, because we want people to be able to detach completely whenever they want to. And we're super... Oh, what's up? Jay Marley just became a rogue seed. Whoop, whoop. Thank you, Jay. That's rad. Jay now gets special colors. Jay gets special gifts. Jay, let me know what else you want to see in the subscription area, because I really haven't focused on it that much, but I love it. Thank you so much. Let's see what else is going on in the chat. Elba Joloco says the corporations have been in control for hundreds of years. The system cannot be changed, but it'll cannibalize itself. Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it's the corporations have been in control for hundreds of years. I think there's literally a class of people, secret societies and whatever you want to call them. There's evidence of them for thousands of years. And they made corporations, and so I think they're in control. I think corporations are one of their control methods and control systems. And yeah, I don't know that the system can be changed either, but I know that I can be changed, and that's good enough to destroy the system. And it will also cannibalize itself. I'm not in disagreement with you. Rogue Cow's in the house. What's up, Rogue Cow? And the educational system is definitely our form of conditioning. Why didn't I bring that up? I know I did when I was teaching this, but I don't know if it's on any of these slides. I think I get to it, actually. We'll see. Oh, no. You can take that long to be a member with anybody. Become a member whenever you want. And do it here. Do it on Subscribestar. Like, I just appreciate your support. It's nice to be able to get some value back for the value that I put into this show. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. And if you're out there wondering if you should also share some value, you should. If you have value to share. Yeah, down with Common Core. Common Core is a very, very controlling mind control system. Whoop, whoop. All right. So, yeah, you guys know we all have tons of drugs in our lives, whether we are doing them via prescription, via, plant medicine, or otherwise. If it becomes a way that you're using it to distract yourself from reality or to, turn off from what's going on, like then you're using it just like someone's used. And that's the intention, is to keep you from actually engaging with the deeper aspects of being, which will lead you away from the system. And that keeps you sort of a passive part of the system. So I really encourage everyone to think about their consumption of any substance. I know I spent a lot of my life engaged in substance use, and I did not think that was a very negative thing. And I look back, and even when it was very much not sort of addictive type of behavior, and it was very much not like negative and destructive necessarily, it was still sort of like preventing or slowing me from healing various aspects of myself, or, creating various aspects of myself anew, or, just being sort of present and engaged in life. And so I'm really like, I try not to even have like caffeine very much now. And I just get sort of cleaner and cleaner as I go. Cause, it's like Outcast says, no drugs or alcohol, so I can get the signal clear as day. And that's the goal. So, they give you these drugs, they give you easy access to it. They make some of them very socially acceptable to keep you disengaged, fucked up, disconnected from yourself, and more likely to die and destroy yourself and others. So just consider that. We also definitely have subliminal messaging. These are all some pretty like very basic examples that I was using in class, but this is pretty fucked up. This, girl looks to be sucking this guy's dick. It's in one of the ice cubes. Of course, we know that subliminal messaging, especially with the message here, feel the curves, very sexual. And that makes us feel more positive and attracted to the product that they're selling. So we know these are used in all kinds of ways for all kinds of products. And I'm sure, and you're sure, that it goes far beyond these very minor aspects that I'm showing you. And into some much deeper levels of psychology. But this is just an example that our society does use the same methods as the Brave New World to train us into doing certain things and behaving certain ways and valuing certain things. So this is just a funny one. There's all kinds of really messed up things going on in this picture if you look too closely. But anywho, we also have conditioning centers. They're called schools in the book. The kids are, like I said, trained subliminally. They're trained using repetition. They're trained using rewards and punishments to love certain things. For example, I think it's the alphas and the betas are trained to sort of hate the outdoors. They hate fields and they hate whatever because they're not going to be working in or vacationing in the fields because it doesn't cause enough production. It doesn't require tools and whatever. And only the deltas and epsilons are trained to enjoy nature because they're going to be out like farming the fields or something. So, for things like that, they use reward and punishment, they use subliminal messaging, they use repetition, and they train them into every single aspect of what they like, what they don't like, what they think, what they believe, and how they act. They have no emotion at all. You might think they have this happiness. They definitely call it happiness. They definitely say everyone is happy now. But their happiness is even just this detached, passive acceptance of things with a smile plastered on their face. It's not a real connection to anything or a real strong emotion. Every single thing is sure. They know it's going to happen next. They know, why it's going to happen. There's no guesswork. There's no unsurety in anything. And this is all conditioned in them as well. And because 100% of humans in the Brave New World undergo this conditioning, there's no avenues for defection or resistance. You know, in our world currently, we have all kinds of options still open to us. We have homeschooling, we have unschooling, we have no schooling, you know, and we have, private schooling and all these things. So, wow. I'm going nuts here. Sorry about that. So we know we're controlled from a very early age too, but we do still have obviously some freedom and some resistance and some things that aren't controlled yet. So their main force of social control, though, isn't even those things. Their main force of social control is their friends and neighbors. Their people around them are way more of a control in the book than is even necessarily emphasized by the book. The book emphasizes all the things I just described, the sort of scientific aspects, but of course, you see it passively throughout the book, this pressure from friends and neighbors to behave in a certain way. If you step out of line at all, everyone instantly kind of like questions you, looks at you like you're weird, you feel uncomfortable, you no longer want to act this way. And we all know that this happens in our lives as well. We see it especially with the, you know, turn in your, God damn it. Why do I keep doing that? We see it especially with the whole, like, turn in your neighbors for not wearing masks and turn in your neighbors for having gatherings of more than 6 people or whatever we're supposed to be doing, you know, or like at the store when people are like literally attacking each other for not wearing masks. It's crazy. If you see these videos, it's crazy. I'm like, God, if somebody fucking did that to me, it'd be insane for them because I would not be very nice about it. I'm going to try to be nice. I keep telling myself I'm going to try to be nice if it happens. But I don't know. We'll see. But we all see this sort of social control in our world too. So we know that this is something that is intentionally leveraged against us for control. And in the book, it's actually a huge part of the control system. There are no police in the Brave New World, which I find interesting now looking at this whole defund the police, you know, let's not have police thing going on in our world. But we're not quite at this level of control that they had. There's a reason they can have no police and get by in the Brave New World, but we can have a whole discussion about that. They don't have police. They don't have jails. Nobody gets locked up because nobody does anything. Everybody's so controlled. Nobody does anything out of line. And there's no punishment even. If you step out of line, your biggest punishment is that your friends and neighbors will treat you differently. And you might be reconditioned, right? If it's feasible and it's just a little slip up, they might just add some more hypnopedia to your bed at night. And even as an adult, or they might like give you extra soma or whatever. They might try to recondition you, or they actually honor defectors. They don't even punish. If you were somehow going to wake up in the Brave New World and be like, holy shit, this shit is fucked. Like, I don't want to live here anymore. They just would exile you. They're just like, okay, well, you want to go, bye. This is kind of nice, you know? Like, China doesn't do that. China just kills you and takes your organs. In the Brave New World, they let you go live somewhere else. It's not like this like plush, like you get to go live on this island and have all your needs met, and your needs are all met in this society, unless you count like personal, private, you know, spiritual needs. But, you know, as far as like living, eating, feeling happy-ish, having fun, having connection with other people, those are all met. And if you're exiled, you're not necessarily going to have that much cush, but you're also not going to be, you know, punished, jailed, or whatever. So it is interesting that there is no real punishment system there. But being unconditioned is savage in this world. They literally call it savage. It's savage to be anything that's outside of their conditioning. And savage, we know, is as traditionally, and especially at the time this was written, considered this word that was applied to anything that was sort of considered uncivilized below us. And that's intentional that he uses this word. So, you know, I don't think he's necessarily racist. He's just drawing on our somewhat recent history and, you know, making us understand that that's the same level of disgust they have for anyone who isn't going along with their conditioning. So John, the sort of pretty much the main character, pretty much the hero. It's just very, very not very hero-like because he's a failure in the end. It's futile. So he is presented sort of as the hero, I guess. But he's also presented as this lesson. And the lesson that he teaches us is that it's futile to resist the Brave New World. Right? John is one of these characters because he's from the Savage Lands. He's from the Native American reservation. But he's also, I won't tell you in case you're going to watch the show. I won't give it away. But there's part of him that doesn't fit in the savage world. And he feels very deeply. So like even in his own society, he's kind of a outcast. And then he also doesn't belong in the Brave New World. And he just has this huge depth of emotion. He has a chaotic childhood. He has a strained relationship with his mother and father. And he really wants to like be a part of something, and he desperately wants meaning. He desperately wants the savages, the Native Americans, have their sort of traditions still intact somewhat. So they have a coming of age ceremony and they won't let him do it. And that just drives him insane. He wants to be a man. He loves marriage. He loves his soul. He loves God. He is this very romantic, emotional, deep feeling. And he's very academic. He's well read in Shakespeare, and that's where the title of the book comes from, Shakespeare. So he is fundamentally religious, very poetic. He's very irrational, especially compared to every other character, because he's not conditioned. So he just flies off the handle. He has erratic emotions. And so a part of his character's job is to point out everything that's missing from the Brave New World, right? They don't have spontaneity. They don't have erratic anything. They don't have emotion. They don't have connection. They don't have religion. They don't have family. They don't have, this lack and the depth of emotion that lack creates. They don't have any kind of struggle, and his whole life has been a struggle. All the things that the Brave New World lacks, John has fully embodied in his character. And this is one of the things that Aldous Huxley did really well. You still don't like John as a character, I'll just point out. As you're reading, you're like, he's not very engaging, but for what he represents, he did a good job. I don't know why I stop when I stop to look in the chat, but I just do it sometimes, and now's one of those moments. Bath salts aren't good. No, Joseph Correa. Stay away from bath salts, kids. Okay? Yeah, Jay Marley knew what I was talking about. Put my Glock away. I got a stronger weapon that never runs out of ammunition, so I'm ready for war. Okay. Now throw your hands in the air. The world or the kingdom of God? That's the choice, according to Chad Clemens. It's very... however you kind of want to frame that, it's kind of true. Yeah, porn. We could have a whole episode on just how porn kills the family dynamic, eccentric. I did do the desecration of sex episode, and if you haven't seen it, you may want to check it out. It's a pretty good overview of our sexual potential that is wasted in our society. And yes, as we've kind of mentioned a couple times throughout the show, and as we'll get back to, I think eccentric is absolutely right. It's more like a playbook on how to run society rather than a fictional novel. And yes, the world says to get rid of pain, Chad Clemens points out. Yes, and pain is good, as you also point out. It's not, at least, maybe good isn't even the right word. It's valuable, right? We can use it in order to strip away what is not us and find what really, really is. And also in order to sort of learn to value not pain, right? So there's some good reasons to have pain. Yeah, this book should freak you out. That's the whole reason I taught it. I was like, I want you guys to see, like, how fucked up these people are. This is what they want for you. And also I want people to see how to avoid it. So John as a character, getting back to John, he also points out how the Brave New World is self-perpetuating. So his character's job is to do both these things, embody everything that the Brave New World lacks, but also point out that the system, once it's in place, is self-perpetuating. There is no way to stop it. There's no way to get out of it. And even if you put this totally uncontrolled element that's very powerful, like John, into the middle of this society, it seems kind of fragile and like things are going to fall apart, but it self-corrects because it's so strongly controlled and conditioned. So that's an interesting job that he plays in this book. He is pushed out of the social body by all possible forces. He's pushed out by every single person that he meets. Eventually, he's pushed out by all of their behaviors and all of their customs. He's pushed out by everything that he is and all the things that he can't change about himself. And he's pushed out by the actual people who control things. So eventually, despite his very heroic efforts to remain very true to himself, he fails even at that. I haven't yet finished the TV show, so I don't know how true they're going to stick to the book. But he does fail in the book. He does not succeed in staying true to himself because he goes into their society basically and he cannot change it. He cannot change anyone in it. You kind of see him like maybe he's going to sort of change some people. Maybe they're going to make it. But in reality, the people who are already sort of different and going to get exiled eventually anyway still end up that way. And then he himself is corrupted by this system. He ends up giving up the core of who he is. It's very lightly hinted at the very, very last page of the book. But it is there, and that is on purpose. So he does actually cave to the social pressure. He does have premarital sex. He joins an orgy. It's very sad. It's horrible, and that's how the book ends. So he ensures that even the most profoundly devout people who are the most passionate will still cave to the system. And that's what the message Aldous Huxley is sending us is that even if you were to like have an outside element that is representing all the things that the Brave New World got rid of, bring it back in, show everyone what they're missing, even that it won't even be like kicked out. It'll be subsumed and changed. So it's a scary vision that he presents here. Possibly intentionally so. And this is the part that I think is very interesting. So the name Brave New World comes from Shakespeare's The Tempest. And so this is the direct quote from that play. And this is a character named Miranda. And she says, "Oh, wonder, how many goodly creatures are there here?" I don't know why that's an exclamation point, not a question mark. "How many goodly creatures are there here? How beauteous mankind is. Oh, brave new world that has such people in it." So you have to, no author does these things on accident. So we know that Aldous Huxley thought, you know what's perfect? You know what represents everything about this book perfectly is that moment that Miranda is looking out at this whole new world to her and she says, "Oh, wonder, how many goodly creatures are there here? How beauteous mankind is. Oh, brave new world that has such people in it." She's naive, right? And she's looking out on this. And it all seems very good to her. And she's very excited about it. Well, let's see. I'm not even that familiar with The Tempest, so I wanted to actually watch this. And let me actually change something about my audio so that you guys can hear it. I hope. And if you can't hear it, I'm just going to be so mad. Audio input. We're going to use this. Okay, you guys tell me if you can hear this. I can see.
Prospero was the Duke of Milan and had a brother named Antonio. Prospero was a deeply loved duke, but unfortunately, he naively put his trust in his brother Antonio. Prospero allowed Antonio to manage the kingdom for many years, but Antonio wanted more and sought to kill Prospero to steal his kingdom and wealth. Antonio decided to not kill Prospero, but to exile him. He did this with the help of Prospero's arch nemesis, Alonso, who was the king of Naples. Antonio took Prospero out to sea and then left him on a deserted island along with his daughter Miranda. However, there was hope for Prospero. On the larger vessel that Prospero and Miranda were forced off of, Prospero had a loyal ally named Gonzalo. While he could do nothing to save the Duke, he could help out. With that, he secretly placed in the boat some fresh water, food, clothes, and books. The island that they were cast off to was a magical island. For years, the island was under the spell of the now dead witch named Sycorax. She had imprisoned all the good spirits inside trunks of trees on the island. One of those spirits was Ariel. This was an interesting opportunity for Prospero, since he was a great magician. It turns out that when Antonio was managing the kingdom, Prospero was devoted to the study of magic. He set out on the quest of freeing the spirits and was successful. He kept the spirits obedient to his will, but treated them relatively fairly. The one spirit he treated badly was named Caliban. He was the son of the wicked old witch. Caliban was also a vicious, horrible monster. Many years later, a boat carrying Antonio, Alonso, with Sebastian, his brother, and Ferdinand, his son, were at sea together with old Gonzalo. and their ship came near Prospero's island. Prospero, knowing they were there, raised a great storm and caused even the best sailors to give themselves up for lost. The first among them was Prince Ferdinand, who leaped into the sea, followed by the rest of the crew. The spirit Ariel saved Ferdinand, and the rest were brought ashore by the strong waves. Hilariously, the ship was perfectly intact. It was anchored at the exact place where they had abandoned ship. Prospero shows his daughter all of this.
I don't know how much of this I can play without getting copyright. Whatever, I'm just going to do it.
Also tells her her life story and how they came to be marooned on this island. Then, Prospero knocks Miranda out with magic, as he has work to do with Ariel. Ariel wants to be set free from Prospero, but Prospero reminds him of the ghoulish fate he was saved from. Prospero says that if Ariel does what he's commanded, then he'll be set free. Ariel goes to carry out Prospero's commands and lures Ferdinand to Prospero with sweet music. Miranda and Ferdinand mutually fall in love. Prospero was delighted, but called Ferdinand a spy anyways. Prospero puts a charm on Ferdinand and makes him carry thousands of logs. Miranda falls deeper in love with Ferdinand and would have helped him carry the logs, but she was forbidden. Finally, Ferdinand is released from the spell. Even more, Prospero allows Ferdinand to marry Miranda. Meanwhile, Antonio and Sebastian, in another part of the island, were plotting the murder of Alonso, the King of Naples. Since they thought Ferdinand was dead, Sebastian would succeed to the throne on Alonso's death. And they would have carried out the murder, but Ariel woke Alonso in time. Ariel plays many tricks on the group, even tricking their eyes into seeing a banquet. Just before they can eat, Ariel snatches it away. Ariel criticizes them for their sins, and then vanishes himself. Then, Prospero summons them to his side of the island. When they arrive, they are all trembling and afraid. They're deeply sorry for their sins that they've committed. Then, Prospero breaks his staff and throws his magical book into the ocean. He goes on to tell the three about the extremely difficult life he and Miranda have had on that island. Alonso, the King of Naples, was the most distraught and sorry of them all. He was so sorry because he believed that he had lost his dear son, Ferdinand. But Prospero pulled back a curtain that revealed Miranda and Ferdinand happily playing chess. Alonso was overwhelmed and cried out, "Give me your hands. Let grief and sorrow still embrace his heart that doth not wish you joy." But to everyone's surprise, everything ended happily. The ship was safe in the harbor, and the next day they all set sail for Naples, where Ferdinand and Miranda were to be married. Ariel gave them calm seas and good winds. The wedding itself was joyous and lovely. Then Prospero, after many years of absence, went back to being Duke of Milan. He was welcomed with happiness by his faithful subjects. When he went back to Milan, he stopped practicing magic and lived a very happy life. One big reason for his happiness was that even when his worst enemies had tried to kill him, he didn't take vengeance. Instead, he forgave them. As for Ariel, Prospero set him free so that he could wander the earth and sing. The end.
Ha! I'm back. Turn that audio off. All right, hopefully you guys can still hear me fine. I did not get a lot out. Stop it. Stop playing. I didn't get a lot out of that. I don't know really why that would be the thing that he chose to base his whole entire title off of? What am I missing, guys? Why did he do that? When Miranda was falling in love with Ferdinand for a minute, and it was sort of like not allowed or something, then I was thinking, okay, maybe this is sort of the ill-fated love story between the characters in Brave New World, John and the lady. I don't know. I don't want to ruin that for you either, in case you watch the show, or read it. But that didn't really seem that similar. I don't know. But the reason why it caught my eye earlier when I was thinking about it, because I was like, why the Tempest and why, Brave New World? What do these things have in common? And again, if you have ideas, let me know in the chat what you think. But my main thing that I was thinking was there was a lot of magic in this, and not every Shakespeare play has a lot of magic in it. They all seem to have at least a touch, right? At least some sort of like magic or supernatural or something. But this one sounded like it was pretty heavily. I mean, that guy was a magician. There's spirits in trees, or spirits that are doing their bidding. And, there's a good amount of his plays that have that. But anyway, that just sort of stood out to me. And I was thinking, what if there's some sort of magical occult aspect that he was sort of hinting at? The other thing is, like I said, Miranda in this moment that she's proclaiming this, like, oh, what goodly creatures there are, how beauteous mankind is. She's, again, kind of stunned by, like, the feast and the things she sees and the sort of joy and connection that she's observing. And again, she's a somewhat naive character, so maybe he's just sort of getting at the naivety that would think that this sort of a world is beautiful, or that this is a beautiful aspect of mankind we're seeing in Brave New World. I don't know. It's hard to say. I'd have to think a lot more about that to give my sort of final idea. And now it's a thing. I do this. In 1984, I thought about the frickin' chestnut tree for like so long that I now have like basically a thesis paper about it. And it's actually rad. If you're into literary shit, you would like it. And I might share it with you when we talk about 1984 on Tuesday, but I am not sure. I am not sure why the Tempest. Why Brave New World alludes in its title to the Tempest. It doesn't come up much during the book, except at the moment when John sort of sees the Brave New World, and he's in New London, and he is sort of like, quoting Shakespeare and saying like, oh, wow, this place is crazy. But it's not even really the same attitude as what Miranda has. He's, no, maybe I'm wrong. And maybe that's all there is to it. Maybe it's just John's view of the New World as he first sees it, not really understanding yet like how dark things can be. Maybe that's all there is to it. Maybe anything past that is just reading into it. But let's see. Vanguard of Truth says, I didn't get much either, but I have a low attention span. Me too. The whole time I was watching that, I was like, this is kind of boring. I'm not really paying that much attention. Sorry, I failed you guys there. Me and Vanguard of Truth failed you. But yes. What is this new show you're talking about? Oh, the new TV show. The Brave New World has been turned into a TV show that Peacock streaming services has. But of course, if you're a pirate, you can just get it, which might be what I did. So it's decent. It's worth watching, especially if you've read the book. I think it's fun to see how they did it, but it's just a show. So whether Aldous Huxley wanted this world or not, he did definitely tell us how to get this world, right? He told us how to exactly, through like scientifically accurate precision, create this hyper-controlled world. And we know that with technology we have today, it's even more likely to be possible, but also more controlled and more invasive than he pictured. So you keep this in mind. That's a little scary. And he also therefore though told us how to avoid it. And that is also what someone awesome in the group pointed out earlier in the chat. Anytime they're telling us their playbook, we can then see, how to avoid it, how to resist it, or how to go against it, or how to build something completely different and therefore alternative to what they have in mind. So one thing is that if you have this strong personal identity, and maybe identity is the wrong word, maybe what it is a strong personal sense of self. Maybe what it is having this like very strong idea of who and what you are beyond a physical body, beyond what society sees you as, beyond your sort of status, your rank, your job, all these things that are sort of meaningless that society gives to you. Having an idea of who you are, what you want in life, what you're here for, having that, I think, that's not determined by any outside factor. I think that's part of the key. And if you watch Rogue Ways enough, you know that this somehow comes up almost every episode, that you really, you know, have to get deep into yourself and ask yourself those questions like, what am I doing here? What's the point of life? Why? What do I want my life to be about? What do I want my point to have lived to be? That was a really fucked up sentence, but you knew what I meant. Those things, you know, it's those questions, I think, that help give us that sort of really strong understanding and really strong ability, therefore, to be true to ourselves and resist any sort of outward socializing, indoctrination factors that might be presented to us. And to be true to that, no matter what pressures exist, right? They can come at us with all of this media all day, every day. Is like, wear a mask, wear your mask, wear your mask. There's fucking if I'm driving down the freeway, there are those large traffic signs that usually tell you if there's a collision or if there's like whatever, Amber Alerts and stuff. They all say like, you must wear your mask. And I'm like, this is insane. Whatever. No matter how much pressure there is, I'm, you know, true to myself. I know that I won't wear a mask, and that's all there is to it. And nobody can change that. No matter how much pressure they apply. So, you know, if you have a strong enough sense of yourself and what matters to you, then it is easier and easier to be true to that. To keep your sexual relationships meaningful, private, and maybe monogamous. I don't try to tell you how to live. You can definitely do whatever you want. I'm not going to judge you for it. I have all kinds of friends and people who I love who have all kinds of different ways of being sexually. This is my own personal place where I've ended up in life so far. These are the things that I value. Again, if you go watch the sexual desecration, is that what it's called? Whatever episode of Rogue Ways, I think it's called The Desecration of Sex is what it's called. Then you'll understand more of kind of why I feel that way. But I think our sexual intimacy, our sexual power is actually incredibly powerful. I think sex magic is a thing, whether you know it or not. And if you're just kind of casting it out with anybody, anywhere, just kind of meaninglessly here and there, like I think that is energy is being used by someone, just not you, right? By something and just not you. And I think it's this very spiritually profound thing, aspect of our being, really. I think it's one of our most powerful aspects of ourselves. We can create literally life with that act and more. It's a powerful thing. And so I think that we get hints of that in everywhere by looking at how much they target it for destruction and desecration, right? And this book is another example of that. In the Brave New World, orgies, casual sex nonstop. If you have any meaningful sex, you're shunned. That's a bad thing. So it's just interesting, you know, so maybe part of how you resist that is by understanding your own sexual power and your own sexual relationships and keeping them meaningful, like I said. And private, whether you have sex in all kinds of ways or whatever, maybe keeping that meaningful and private is enough. And to keep family units intact, you know, to value the family unit, to honor your own family, even though we all have people in our family that are difficult, or, you know, we all have problems in our families that are whatever. Those are our like opportunities for growth, though, you know, and whatever. If people are abusive, cut them out of your life. But I'm just saying, in general, you know, honoring your family and uniting with your family can be this very powerful thing, and it can keep you, I guess, attached to the things that matter and less able to attach to the things that don't, or to, you know, be siphoned off and suctioned into these things that are distracting and detaching and destructive. So, you know, again, I think a lot of us find ourselves in situations where it might be hard to create a family in sort of like the traditional way, but dude, if you have a number of people who are united in a common goal and you like support each other nonstop, that's your family, you know? So create that however you can, I think, is really important to be that connected on that deep of a level with other people. And to keep your connections with humans individualized and personal. You know, there's, even when I was a checker in a grocery store, my goal every day, because it's so monotonous and boring anyway, my goal every day was to like personally connect with as many of the people who came through my line as possible. Make eye contact and smile, not just in like oh, I'm a drone and I'm here to help you, but like in a, hey, you're a human, what's up? Like, you know, and to keep that sort of attitude. I know we've talked about it a lot on the show too, when we're going out into this mad world that we have around us these days, especially when we see people who are like scared looking and they've got their mask and they're like looking around like the world's going to explode. Like, make eye contact and smile and try to, you know, keep those connections. And I think the more we have those personalized and individual, meaningful connections, even at a brief, quick, somewhat shallow level, I think that's important. And I think that this book, Brave New World, emphasizes what he may see as a positive thing, but we know is negative, this sort of very shallow, very meaningless, just pre-programmed, interactions with people is destructive. And so we want to keep the reality in those interactions as much as we can. And of course, finally, they've completely cut out religion and spirituality. If you've heard me talk about my own experiences with being a communist revolutionary and, espousing those ideologies, the thing that finally was the final sort of wedge between me and that ideology was the fact that they wanted to completely abolish all spiritual practice. And that blew my mind. And that's a real thing. That's a real goal of communism and communist revolution, is to abolish the church and any spiritual practice. So, and that's true in the Brave New World as well. There is no spirituality. The spirituality they have is based on the Ford orgy thing that I mentioned earlier and the solidarity service. It's meant to mimic a spiritual experience, but there's no real religion or spirituality or thought of soul or any of these things. So we know, therefore, that being connected to our own, whatever it is, our own spirituality, our own soul, our understanding that we're more than a physical body, those things, and having that be as much of your life as you can make it, more and more so as you go on, have practices that reinforce it, talk with people about it to reinforce it. The more you build that aspect of yourself, the less they are capable of creating these systems of control in a way that is effective. And of course, it is the best thing if you can resist or get away from using drugs and other distractions. We all know there's things that are not necessarily drugs that are drug-like to us, like TV and, other distractions like that we get, Facebook, that we get addicted to and kind of run to as a distraction. Any of those types of things we want to cut out as much as possible, because we want to be as present in the moment as possible. We want to engage all of our observatory senses, and notice them. What are they doing? What's happening around us? How do we feel? Where are we even? What's our consciousness doing? We want to be as in touch with that as possible. So like Outcast says, we can get the signal clear as day. So we want to try and focus on that too. We don't want to be soma'd out all the time. Everybody has soma all the time in the book. They're constantly high all the time. Anytime they have any sort of distress or anything, just take soma, just go out of it. So that's another clue, right? Keeping us drugged makes us easily controlled. So us keeping ourselves not drugged makes us less easily controlled. And that's the thing. That's the end of the thing. I did the things. Whoops. There we go. So I love the book Brave New World because it outlines a vision of control and, and it's the vision that uses the carrot more than the stick, right? They're like, look, everybody has everything they need. Everybody's provided for. Everybody's happy. Everybody belongs to everybody. All of the society is planned and perfect. You know what to expect. There's no pain. There's no trauma. There's no unexpected problems, basically. There's just everything is prepared for. And we had this discussion in my class every time I taught this book, because inevitably there's a large portion of students who are like, this world is fucking rad. What? We need Brave New World now. Let's do this. And my approach to teaching is to not tell kids what to think, but just teach them how to think. So, I'm never like, oh, how dare you? It's an awful world. I try to, as much as possible, make it not obvious that I think this world that is described is despicable and awful. And so we can have this discussion openly, and they feel open to share their ideas. And so inevitably, every time there's a large group of students who genuinely thought this is the best society, why wouldn't we do this society? Let's do it now. This sounds perfect. And they have good points, right? There's no drug overdoses. There's no homelessness. There's no poverty. Nobody ever is hungry. Nobody's ever hurt. Everybody has somebody to love, have sex with. At least they're partying all the time. They get to go to orgies. They're just high. It's rad. Why wouldn't you want this? Even if you're a Delta or an Epsilon, you're happy. Why wouldn't we do this, And then, of course, there'd be the group of kids who were like, no, I want to do what I want to do. I want to choose my career. I want to not be on drugs all the time. I want, I want to have love. I want a family, there was always both sides. And then there was always kids in the middle who were like, I don't know, what book? So, but this is the position we're put into. Would you, if they came tomorrow, and it almost reminds me of the Nasara Gassara thing, right? The whole, we're going to give you all this money. You just live the way we tell you to. It's if they came tomorrow and they were like, look, You're going to have this hella dope apartment. You're going to have all your food. You never have to worry. You'll always have a job. You'll always, like, everything will be fine. You have free time. You go play your games all day. Like, you only work a couple hours a day. Shit is great. Here's all this soma you want. Like, you know, like, a lot of people would be like, yeah, why wouldn't we do that? And of course, so it's up to the people who see, like, all that you lose if you go into a system like this, to keep that flame alive. And the idea that, you know, our thoughts should be free from conditioning. We should be able to grow and change as we encounter new experiences in life. We should be able to choose what we want for ourselves. We should have suffering and some pain and some stumbling blocks, you know, because it's part of ourself too. It's part of getting over some things in ourselves that are stumbling blocks that we wouldn't have noticed if we didn't have this thing present itself. It's like, you know, we want love, we want family, like these things, it's part of being human, and we value it. And if you don't, that's cool too. Like, go make a brave new world. But I'm on the side of freedom and independence and privacy and individuality and, you know, being true to our souls, having spirituality, having sex be a powerful, sacred part of our lives. And all of these things is important to me. And so, but I like this vision of the future because it unmasks, again, wherever you think Aldous Huxley sat, whether he's laying out the plan and he's just telling us how it's going to be, or whether he's kind of a thoughtful person who was like, well, these are all trends in society. Why wouldn't governments use these to control people? Either way, it still shows this, exactly that, the trends in society that could become controlling mechanisms, and a possible playbook for how they're going to roll it all out, right? So either way, we can look at it, like we said, we can see, okay, if these are things that they're going to possibly use to control us, here's the ways that we're going to resist. Like we said, you know, resist those conditioning aspects, resist drugs, resist throwing your sex away to anyone who wants it, resist breaking down the family, resist finding, you know, connection with other humans to just be a shallow encounter that you move past and let go of, or whatever. Like, all of these things are things that we can then use as tools to build up what we want instead of what we don't want. You know, in unconsciousness, we go along with that path wherever they're leading us, and in consciousness and intention, we go along a different path where we're creating something else in, you know, somewhat in opposition to, but really just an alternative to what they're having. So we want to be headed that way. And I'm just going to check back in with the chat a little more. Ooh, we got into Lucifer out here. So much chat. Okay, here we are. I think this is where I was. I like to try to read as much of the chat as possible. Bye Elba Jaloco. Whatever your name is. Nice to have seen you. The savage is moral, Scott says. The brave new world is immoral. You could look at it that way. There's definitely some immoral aspects of the savage world too, though. You know, I don't think either stands out in sort of perfection necessarily. And it doesn't have to be like an either or thing, right? We can take the best of all of it and move on, I think. But yes, Irene Schnabel, what's up? You say, ask questions to yourself every day. Do it. It's a good idea. James True is talking about all of this lately. Scott says, morality is all about morality coming from within yourself rather than from an outside source. Absolutely. Yeah. Always look inside first. That's what I say, right? Porn definitely saps our energy. I agree with that. Eccentric. Yeah. My pics block the words. I don't know. Oh, on the slides? Yeah, probably. Yes, always find students and teachers everywhere you go. That's what I say. I think some people in the past have been confused when I said, you're a very good teacher to me. And then they thought I meant like always in every single moment. I'm like, oh no, I just meant like sometimes. Like, there are no real teachers who are consistently 100%, but every single person, every single moment can teach you something, right? So every person you meet, every person you interact with, every experience you have, these can all teach you something. And honestly, you are teaching other people, even if you don't know it. someone's noticing something you're doing, they're gonna like, oh, that's like something I want to incorporate, or like, oh, that's something I do not want to incorporate. I'm not that thing, right? And either way, they're learning something about themselves. So we're all constantly teaching and learning, definitely. And you do what I say is you always want to pick a teacher. If you're picking a teacher, you look at them, you're like, how's their personality? How's their personal life? How's their life in general? How's their kind of like house and place arranged? How's their like lifestyle? You know, are all these things, if all these things are things that I wouldn't mind being part of my life, that's probably a really good teacher to choose. If there's stuff that you're like, oh, they're kind of like a dick, or like their shit's like kind of fucked up, they kind of treat people poorly, or like, why don't they actually have like a home or something, you know, like whatever it is. And it doesn't matter. Maybe you like them because they don't have a home. I'm not trying to like say, I'm just saying like when you're looking at everything about them, does it resonate with you? Is that what you want for yourself? Because if so, good teacher. If not, copying them, emulating them, or taking in what they're doing and making it part of your life is going to head you that same direction, right? Cause and effect. So you want to choose teachers that have things going on that you would want going on for you. That's my advice. That's the advice I was given by a shaman. And that's the advice I'm passing along to you as well. I think it's great advice. Although again, you can learn from all sorts of people and they are your teachers, right? But as a teacher, as someone who you're going to like consistently go back to again and again, listen to and take in and sort of stuff, you want to ask yourself these questions. I think that's my 2 cents. Yes, taking drugs is definitely your choice. Drugs are medicine when they're taken in the way that is medicinal. You know, medicine's not bad, but abusing drugs and checking out from reality in a way that is allowing you to detach from instead of like connect to and grow, I think that's when you start to have a problem. So you just gotta look at your relationship with it, look at how you use it, and look at its effects on your life, and then like you can kind of determine, right? Is anything can be a drug, right? Like this show could probably be a drug. If I was just like addicted to it and I was like not living my life to do it, like it'd be bad. All gods are truths about nature. Nature is a god. Are we talking about gods? Yes. I don't know. Lucifer. Lucifer's a trickster spirit at the very least, right? At the very least, Lucifer represents that same trickster spirit that a lot of various religions have. And so if you're just looking at the archetype of tricksterism, that's not bad, right? That's just this idea that life kind of is like, let me like throw this at you and see what you do. And those moments can kind of like expand us and draw out more of us and cause us to kind of move beyond our comfort zone, try new things and grow and whatever. That's a good thing. Archetypally, that process is beautiful. If there's an entity named Lucifer, according to a lot of texts, that entity might be a dark entity, and we might want to question if that entity is interacting with us, whether or not we like it. But if we're talking about just like symbolic archetypal tricksterism, that's a cool process of life. In my opinion. That's where I stand on Lucifer so far. Chrissy Perez, what's up? Nice to see you, Chrissy. Irene Schnabel, you're welcome. Oh, thank you, Social Observer. I love the super chats. This is your individual soul journey. Always practice self-love and self-gratitude instead of being envious of others. Absolutely. I've been like, I woke up today and I was like, I don't want to go to work. I was like mad, angry. And then I was like, whoa. I like literally stopped and was like, I am so glad that I have a job that is so easy and awesome with cool people. And I get to make way more money than I need. And it's awesome. And I am just grateful. And then all of that negativity went away. And I was just happy to go to work. So I love it. Yes, always love and self-gratitude is the way to go, especially instead of envy. Good point. Thank you, Social Observer. I really appreciate that super chat donation to the show. Yes. Captain Obvious points out, making good examples, people follow your lead, and that makes it better than preaching. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, like I like say shit. I'm like sharing my ideas and whatever. I try to never preach because honestly, I think everyone should find their way and their path. And again, that's my approach to teaching. You guys think what you want to think. I'm not going to tell you what to think. What I respect, whatever side you know. You want the Brave New World? That's cool. I respect you. And I try to be that way in life as well. And everybody should think and do what they want to think and do, you know. But I'm gonna share my ideas too, and I hopefully it never comes across as preaching. And I don't think that's what you meant, but I just agree that you know your behaviors and your actions are gonna always speak louder than your words anyway. And so being the way that you think things should be, that's gonna always be more powerful, and that's gonna make you a better teacher. You're gonna be a teacher even if you don't mean to be a teacher in that way. It's gonna be rad. All right. LSD once a year should be a requirement. I don't know. Once you've done LSD like 300 times, I don't think you need any more. But yes, maybe for some people that's a really good way to do it. Names change. Entities existed before we spoke English. Yeah, I always wonder. It's weird to look at how the etymology of words changes over time, right? And I would love to see that in relation to various entities, because supposedly you need their exact name in order to like work with them. And so it's like, how did their exact name exist for this long? You know, I have the exact same thoughts. It's very interesting. I want to do a grimoire episode with Alan Sisko. We've been talking about that for like 2 years, so it's gonna happen someday, we swear. But that last episode we did was fire. Again, if you haven't went and looked at that episode with Alan Sisko about alchemy, go check it out. Do I have Organites? Yes, I showed them all off at the beginning of the show. Go check them out. I'm gonna post them on my site as soon as possible. Chad is not a bot. Chad is here all the time. Chad's awesome. Brave New World has no emotion. Ooh, good point, Captain Obvious. It's brave, but not really, huh? All right. Thank you all for your chats. I think I caught up. It's awesome to interact with you guys live on the show like this. I am very grateful for all of your love and support and your donations, your subscriptions. That keeps me going, literally. You know, it gives me enough value back that this, you know, that I still have value in doing this. I love doing this, and I would always, I think, do it no matter what. But it's so nice to be respected and honored in that way, that people are sharing value back. I really appreciate you guys. And there's so many ways to do it. So if you want some Organite pendants, you know, these ones are already up on the site. And if you want the Organite plaques that are going to go up on the site soon, those things are ways to support me as well. If you want to get a tarot reading, if you want to do a guidance session, if you want a class, I teach some classes. There's just all sorts of ways. So I really appreciate all that you guys do, and I love doing all that I do for you guys. So we'll just remember with Brave New World, this was the carrot version, right? This is the version of total control that involves this, like I said at the very beginning, I don't know how many people caught it, but it was the subtitle to this presentation was The Softest Chains. Right? You're still chained, but it's like cushy. They're like fur lined, and you're like in like a silk bed, you know, and you're being fed like souffle or whatever. That's the version of control that Brave New World represents. Everybody's happy, everybody's drugged, like there's no suffering, supposedly, whatever. But what do you sacrifice for it, right? And then on Tuesday, like I said, what I hope to do is present a similar sort of overview of 1984. And go into the stick version of control and talk about how, you know, the forceful system could also be the way that we go. Or maybe, as I've sort of ended up believing after all these years, we're going to have this perfect fusion of both. We're going to like carrot most people into it, and we're going to have a hard ass stick for the few people who won't go along. So we'll see. Both are possible, but we don't have to go along with either. And it's uncanny how the ways out of the Brave New World are the same ways out as out of 1984's version of control. So we will see how those things actually unite in the end. And until you are utterly true to yourself, because you know you're a soul and you have a spiritual world that no control system could ever truly destroy, you're an individual and you always will be, until you manifest that utterly in every moment and inspire others to do the same just through the pure force of being your beautiful self. Travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
Baby, it's the rap machine. Yeah, check it. Great bearded pirate, unknown. Yeah, come on. In the place with my fist up, meaning I resist the bullshit that they spit, we lost it, toss it, let's start it again. Cause now with technology, with smarter men and women, this is the beginning, not the end. If this is the message of hope that I send, look on your TV, it's a culture of death. They'll keep on lying to the very last breath. We keep on striving and spreading the truth. It's hard to survive in this world for the youth. The door is closed, the old world is dead. Let's have an age of understanding instead. I'll include you and you include me. Let's see what we can build with some positivity. Let's go, you're moving too slow. Let me see your hands if you know what I know. Come on.
Rap like mummy, ain't no dummy in my rhyming. Started flowing freestyle and now they rhyming loud silence. On with the violence, bodies piling with the gray-bearded pirate. On your TV in 4K 3D virtual reality. Casualty of urban warfare. I know but I'm not scared, just prepared and aware. Shining my light through the tunnel of hope. Into the rope, but I'ma give it one more pull. Till the family is full. Take the bull by the horns and lead it to the slaughter. That would be harder and you would be softer. Sometimes I'm a monster and you forever imposter, which is champagne and lobster. This royalty, the way it was supposed to be. Hopefully the new door opens and the old one closes with way more focus and growth to mold us, and the truth that they should have told us.
To them screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rulers that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly. Suggestions that a flicker rate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The paupers see this mockery and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet. Everyone got a gift, everyone got a light. They want you to forget that ish, cause they can't dim the bright. The positive vibration takes you past the sign shackles. From the sewers and the alleys in the moving castles. Who these assholes really serving with an exposed Achilles surgeon around the corner lurking to prove ascension trumps perversion. Learn them to catch fish and unplug the signal. Show them the simpletons now build the fucking temples.